Greetings and welcome to part 7 of our series Overcoming Sin. And now we are in the last part, which talks about how to correct. Remember, we had part 1 and part 2 that talked about the introduction to the concepts. We had part 3 and part 4, which talked about how to prevent. We had part 5 and part 6, which talked about how to detect. And now we have part 7, 8, 9, and 10 that are going to be talking about how to correct. Okay, is it really possible to correct sin? You've sinned, you've already sinned. But what we mean by how to correct, we mean how to come back in line with what God would have you do. Because God will have you at whatever point. Remember the prodigal son? He still came back and he was accepted. So, which are our scriptures? The first thing we need to do in terms of correcting is acknowledgement of our sinfulness. So the first thing we need to look at is when the devil comes to you, he always wants you to believe that you are not worthy to call yourself a child of Jesus. Because he says that what you are doing is so below the standard that Jesus has set that you are an embarrassment to Jesus. That's how the devil operates. And what you want to do is you want to come back to the devil with a scripture like Romans 3 verse 23, which says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. In other words, to let the devil understand that God accepts me just as I am. He knows I'm a sinner. In fact, the reason he died for me on Calvary is because he knew about my sin. And so my sin is already paid for. So acknowledge your sinfulness. Don't be in denial. A lot of us try and clothe our sinfulness with certain scriptures from the Bible justifying our sin. For example, polygamous marriages, trying to go in and talk about Solomon and David, their many wives and many concubines, and saying that is a justification. No. We need to acknowledge our sinfulness. That's the starting point. So the first scripture is Romans 3:23. Second scripture that I'd like us to look at in terms of acknowledging our sinfulness is acknowledging Romans 3:23 says that we have sinned. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. In other words, all have committed the act. But Romans 7 verse 18 talks about our propensity, our proclivity, our inclination to sin. In other words, our leaning, our tendency towards sin. Because this is what Romans 7:18 says. For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. Can you imagine that? Nothing, zero. Nothing good is in me. For even though I have the will to do what is good, I cannot carry it out. And in verse 19 it says, for the good that I'd like to do, I do not do it. But the evil that I'd like to avoid, that is what I keep doing. So once it is understood that God is clear about our nature and our actions based on that nature, then the devil has no power on us. So that's the starting point. So go out there, look at your life, look at everything you're doing, acknowledge your sinful nature, acknowledge your sinful deeds, acknowledge your sinful inclinations. God bless you.